When visiting Rome, there are definitely some things that you should avoid. And in this video, I'm going to share with you 10 of the biggest things that you should avoid while in Rome. In fact, if you can avoid all 10 of these, you're going to have a great visit to Rome. I've got lots to share with you. This video should be very helpful. Let's get started. First thing, you need to avoid Saint Peters Basilica. Not entirely, but between the hours of like about 9 a.m. until about an hour or two before they close. Between those midday hours, it's just too crowded, especially the lines to go through security. You can just waste too much time in line. So if you're going to be visiting Saint Peters Basilica, do it first thing in the morning or towards the end of the day. Once you're inside Saint Peters Basilica, it's so much more enjoyable when it's not super crowded. Another thing you want to avoid doing when in Rome is visiting the Vatican Museum when it's super crowded. Avoid visiting it on the weekends and Mondays. It's just too crowded. It's best to schedule that towards the end of the day before closing. It depending on the season, it typically closes around 6 p.m. So if you get there an hour or two before the last entry at 6 p.m., you know, that's ideal. You can also go first thing in the morning when it first opens at 8 a.m., but if you get there shortly after 8, it's already getting crowded. So in my opinion, it's best to visit the Vatican Museum at the last hour or two of the day than in the beginning or the middle of the day, unless you get there right when it first opens. Another thing you're going to want to avoid when in Rome is the metro. The metro is a great way to get around the city, but you want to avoid riding it during peak rush hours, and that is in the morning from around 7 in the morning all the way until maybe 8:39, and then again in the evening from around 5 to 7 p.m. Now, you can still get on the metro, but you're going to have very little personal space, if any. That means they pack them in like sardines. You're going to have people basically up against you, and it can be very unpleasant. So if you can avoid riding the metro in the very beginning of the morning or at the rush hour coming home, otherwise it can be a great way to get around the city quickly and efficiently and much more enjoyable than during those peak times. And trust me, I've been on those things when it's so crowded. I mean, it's unbearable. If you're visiting Italy and you're going to be scheduling a time to visit Rome for less than a week, I would recommend avoiding Rome on the weekends. The weekends can be super crowded, especially in peak season. And while it may still be crowded on the weekdays, they're far less crowded than the weekends. So if you can plan your trip to visit Rome on the weekdays, I think you're going to have a much better experience in Rome. Again, if you're visiting for more than a week, then yeah, you'll be there on the weekend. But if you just have 1, 2, 3 days to spend in Rome, try to spend those on the weekdays. Another thing you're going to want to avoid is to eat lunch when everybody else is eating lunch. That means eating lunch at around 11 a.m. when the restaurants first open. You're going to find most restaurants, even the popular ones, you can get right in when they first open. They soon pack out with people, and if you're showing up 11:30, 11:45, 12 o'clock, oftentimes you're going to stand in a long line. So it's ideal to plan to eat lunch early in the lunch hour, you know, around 11, or you can also wait till the end of the lunch hour, which typically ends around 3 p.m. So if you show up at a restaurant around 2:30 or so, you can typically still get in, but just be aware they typically close around 3 p.m. So in my opinion, it's better to eat lunch earlier than later, but either end works. And the same thing kind of goes for dinner. A lot of the nice restaurants open up at 7 p.m. So if you're going to eat, try to get there when they're first open, or wait until towards the end of the evening, 10 o'clock or so before you have dinner. Otherwise, again, you just waste too much time in line. Almost everybody who visits Rome wants to visit Trevi Fountain. So when you're visiting Trevi Fountain, here's some advice for you. Try to not visit between 9 a.m. and about 8 p.m. It's just too crowded. Yes, you can get a glimpse of the fountain, but you're going to be there with thousands and thousands of other people, which isn't necessarily bad, but at the same time, there's alternatives that can make your experience at Trevi Fountain so much more enjoyable, and that is visiting very early, 5:30, 6 in the morning until around 7:30, and then again after 10 p.m. If you do that, you're going to find that you have much more better experience at the Trevi Fountain than you otherwise would. But again, that's up to you. In my, the recommendation I have for you is to avoid those times in the middle of the day, which basically is all day long. Try to visit early in the morning or late at night. You're planning a trip to Rome and you're trying to decide what months to visit. Well, in my opinion, avoid July, avoid August. Both are crowded, but they're also very hot. And trust me, being hot and crowded is far worse than being crowded and very pleasant temperatures. So if you have a choice, don't visit in July, too hot, too crowded. August is a little less crowded, but many of the Romans do go on their vacations during August, and you might find some restaurants and certain things might be closed in August. So yeah, those are the 2 months I would avoid of the entire year are July and August. Again, the reasons are it's just too dang hot and it's just too dang crowded. If I could have hot, uncrowded, or crowded and unhot, but not both. One of Rome's most popular sites is the Colosseum. So if you're going to be visiting the Colosseum, here's the advice I have for you. Either visit the Colosseum when it first opens in the morning, like 8:30 in the morning. When it first opens, get there, be ready, and you'll have a good time. Or wait until about an hour before closing. Both of those offer you the opportunity to avoid majority of the crowds. It may still be somewhat crowded, but nothing like midday. Avoid midday at all costs, in my opinion. Also, if you're going to be there during the summer, look for some of those opportunities to visit the Colosseum in the evening, the night tours. Those are really special and quite enjoyable. But yeah, try to not visit the Colosseum, even with a ticket. Okay, you can get in, you're not going to spend a ton of time in line, but when you get into the Colosseum, it's just body-to-body people, too crowded in my opinion. So yeah, make the most of the Colosseum by visiting it when it first opens or about an hour before it closes. Another thing you want to avoid when visiting the Roman Forum, all of your tickets to the Colosseum will include a free entry into the Forum, and 80% of the people who enter the Forum enter right across from the Colosseum. That entry point, even with a ticket, is very crowded. Everybody going into the Forum has to go through security. That means they have to, go through a metal detector, and they'll check your bags at minimum, maybe not always a metal detector, but doing that's a process that can be kind of slow, and the line there gets very long. What people don't realize, there are 4 other locations you can enter into the Forum, and almost all of them have no lines at all. And I'll put those on the screen. If you can just make that extra walk of 300 meters or less to the next entrance, you can avoid that line, get right into the Forum, enjoy the Forum, and yeah, have a better time and a better experience than standing in that big line. And last but not least, you want to avoid all the scams in Rome. That's a lot easier said than done, but in general, just remember, nothing in Rome is free. So if somebody's offering you a free rose...
Italiano?
Non sono italiano.
No, Italiano. From USA.
Sì.
My family live in Alabama. Quanto tempo aqui?
Sì.
How long here?
2 anni.
2 anni?
Sì. No.
Dai mio cuore. Dammi le sai perché?
No.
Perché tu non casato nero, perché sei good people.
Sì.
Dai, ti dai regalo.
No. È per altri, per i turisti.
Non problema. Problema di tempo dono.
Ciao. A free bracelet, you know, chances are, not chances, they do want money. If they're asking you to sign a petition, they want money. If they're asking you to take a picture with them and they're in a gladiator costume, they want money. Just be aware of that. There are so many other scams in Rome, and I'm working on a video, it'll be done in about 2 or 3 weeks, about all the popular or the most common scams in Rome. If you want to not miss that, be sure to subscribe to the channel. I'll have that done shortly. So avoiding scams is crucial to having a good time in Rome, and if you do get taken for a few euros here or there, don't let it be the end of the world. Just learn from it and have a good attitude, because ultimately that's what it's really about. It's the attitude you have even when things go wrong that makes whether you have a good time or a bad time when visiting Rome. So there you have it. If you can avoid these 10 things, I think your visit to Rome is going to be magnificent. Now we're talking about all those things you should avoid. There's definitely one thing that you should not avoid. And unfortunately, so many people who visit Rome never make it out to Aqueduct Park and to Via Appia Antica. And in my opinion, the best way to do that is on an e-bike ride. It's so much fun. I did a video about it. If that interests you at all, please check it out. It's coming up right now.